I'm so excited to be sitting down with you today and getting to have a proper art chat, which will definitely lead us into a life chat. If you have not seen me before, my name is Kaylee, and I'm making this series to document the process of completing my second graphic novel. If I can inspire one person in their creative pursuits, then this video is a success. Today I'm going to be going over some of the recent pages I've done on my graphic novel and talking about how I made them, talking about what they mean. If you are a graphic novelist or you're looking to start your own and you'd like to know what materials I'm using, they are all down below. There's just a few things. And if you have any other questions for me, feel free to leave them in the comments. So my goal for this year has been to get at least halfway through this second volume of my graphic novel, and looks like we're on track for that. Last month I ran a successful Kickstarter to publish my first book, and so that will be coming out in December of this year, and I'm so happy about that. I'm gonna start where we last left off. If you haven't seen a video on this series, it really doesn't matter. You can always go back and watch the past ones if you're interested. This volume that I'm working on is a painted memoir that goes into more of my childhood or high school years. I absolutely love the process of making this. I loved the process of making the first book. If you have a creative project that you would like to start or that you've already started, I just want to give you all of the motivation and support that I possibly can through a screen. I think that there is nothing more healing or powerful than creating something that you feel called to create, and it doesn't matter what that is or what medium it is. To give a little context for where we are in the story, the main character is on a rooftop, and the narration of the previous few pages was, "I was never afraid, but I felt the weight of centuries, and I always have. Back then, I knew so little and understood so much." So she's just come down from the rooftop back into this alleyway, and now there's this sort of magical portal. One of the things that I hope to contribute through my work is to honor the emotional spaces that we experience. And of course, this archway doesn't exist in real life, but this is how I felt at the time. Like there was this whole world that was magical, that was open for me to witness, and it felt so special. I forget why I cut the top off this one. Regardless, I might redo this because I'm not 100% happy with it, but the narration says, "I was young and I was ancient." These words are kind of describing not only how I felt, but also what is going on the page, because the archway itself is an ancient thing. It's got this marble face on it, implying that it was built a very long time ago, but on it is all of this graffiti. Some people might not agree, but I think there's a really beautiful relationship between graffiti and nature. On a lot of buildings that have been abandoned by the people who made them, you'll usually find vines crawling up them and graffiti all over it. And I think that the two sort of go together, almost like nature and the people who actually come to that building are reclaiming the space. And I think that's really beautiful. All right. Okay, so this one says, "Everything I saw, I became." She's under the archway now. She's looking up and she sees this marble head at the top of the archway, or stone head rather. And slowly its eyes are changing from stone to, something more realistic of an eye. I was really excited to draw this one, and I was excited about the words too, because when I was at this age, a big part of my alone time, I remember feeling like everything that I was looking at, I feel like I recognized myself in it, in a sense. Not recognize myself like my own body, but just I felt like everything was familiar, and things that I saw and that I looked at just felt this kind of like kinship with, like I was meant to be part of this world. I was meant to be here, and I wasn't differentiated from anything. I was in harmony with my surroundings. She's not transforming into this marble statue, but it's this idea that she's able to look through the eyes of anything, even something that is not living, and feeling that recognition between the two of them. So she's walking in, and the narration goes, "I took it for granted." And the marble statue now has these black eyes, and she looks back and she's got the black eyes too. And there are these little points of light in her eyes, which we'll get to in the next page. What did she take for granted? What did I take for granted? That feeling of being nothing but everything at the same time. The thing that I really want to figure out how I can describe visually and through this sort of poetic narrative is going from feeling like you're everything and nothing at the same time in a safe and cozy way to then realizing that you're being observed and witnessed by society that has its own ideas about what you mean. Becoming aware of oneself through the eyes of others. How does that affect our relationship with our inner selves and these worlds that we were once a part of? I want to make sure that I handle this subject with a lot of delicacy. If it gets a bit scary or unsettling, because life does get scary and unsettling, I want to be representing that honestly, but through the lens of a higher knowing. I don't want to be creating things that are unsettling for no reason. It's important to me that the overarching voice of whatever work I do comes from a place that is deeply loving and compassionate and forgiving, especially of oneself. I want to get into why I abandoned and cut off parts of myself, but without shaming myself for doing so, because I think a lot of the time, especially when we're young, but at any time, we start doing things because some part of us believes that it'll keep us safe. And sometimes it can actually be so detrimental to us, or it can be fine at the time, but it can be a pattern that becomes detrimental to ourselves and to others. I know that we're all just trying to keep ourselves safe, and sometimes we might go about that in a way that actually threatens our safety or the safety of others. I want to explore this relationship with myself so that it can kind of open up the conversation a bit, and maybe someone who reads it can think about their own relationship to themselves without shame, without guilt, and with understanding and compassion for every single part of themselves. That's my goal. But what we're about to get into is the process of recreating oneself, maybe violently, in order to fit in with the gaze of society, or so we think we have to. Something I want to practice more and get better at is visual transitions, which painting really allows you to do. A graphic novel really allows you to make such cool transitions that maybe a regular movie wouldn't allow you to do unless it's an animation. This is me practicing. We have the twinkle that was in her eye in the previous page, and then slowly we see that it is the tip of a needle. And so this hand coming out of the darkness has a needle and thread. So this illuminated letter marks a bit of a tone change. It says unconsciously, ... And oh my gosh, this was so much fun. I loved making this one. First of all, I just love like illuminated letters. I think that's what they're called, or illuminated manuscripts. So this was really fun to do itself. And you know I love painting hands, obviously. But what I did was I used actual thread. Let me get it. I just went to Joann's and I got some thread. If you're interested in doing this yourself, I'm no expert. This is just what I did. So I made little holes in the page first that I would be stitching through. And that way it wasn't hurting the paper as much when I was sticking the needle in and out. Yeah, this is just regular thread that I got from Joann's. I don't know, it was just the cheapest one I could find. I got black and white thread and I stitched this part right here, and then I extended the thread to connect with the painted needle here. What I did was I painted the entire thing first and then I went in with the needle and thread. Obviously make sure that it's dry first, but oh, this was so much fun. And I love introducing any sort of new medium that I can. This is a real pleasure to do. Okay. From the previous page, we've got unconsciously. Then the narration goes, I began to create a self that would act as a placeholder, a decoy. And so already it's this idea of splitting oneself, like the body is now a decoy. You're creating this outer shell that will be hopefully accepted by society, but in doing so, at least for me, I began to think of my shell as a placeholder or a decoy, not really as inherently me or really deeply connected to what I felt I was on the inside. So I'm trying to describe like this split happening. And I'm using makeup here, but first of all, that's not everyone's experience, and it's not like I was caking it on, but I'm just trying to find ways of showing how I was changing myself in order to fit a standard that I didn't create and I wasn't born valuing. But because I lived in a particular society, I was told that I should value it, and I was told that I should subscribe to it. It's on me. I mean, I did it. So it's not like I'm blaming society or saying like I'm a victim of it or anything like that. I'm just trying to show this is what I felt at the time I had to do, and these are the consequences. Going from the previous page, she's making herself into a decoy, as we are all encouraged to do. And I included a mask here because, like I said, not everyone used makeup as a way to try and hide or mask themselves, but I do think that we are all in some way encouraged to mask parts of ourselves in order to survive in the world, or in order to be understood in the world, or to hope to be accepted. The rules and the norms of society, no one can escape getting those messages. Okay, let's go to the next one. Right, so as we are encouraged to do, to be comprehensible in a world like this. So she's got this mask, she's looking at it, she might be putting it on, we'll see. A deep impulse to protect what I really was. In her brain, there's this sort of forest that's growing. I use the word protect very intentionally because, like I was saying before, I think a lot of the things that we do that actually damage us or alienate parts of ourselves from us, we do because we think it will protect us in some way. I want to take accountability for the active role that I played in this separation within myself. But it's very important to me to acknowledge why I did that, and the fact that my intentions as a young person were to protect a part of myself that I really loved. I didn't think that that part of myself would be comprehensible in the world, and so that's why I separated that part of myself. The intention behind it was loving, and also the consequences that came from that separation, even though they were painful and scary at the time, I think that those were loving too. So that's what I mean when I say I want to explore these things that might be a little bit difficult for me to really face into, so that I'm not perpetuating this feeling of shame that I don't think does anybody any good. I have a few more pages that I did, but I think I'll save them for next month's video because I don't want this to be too long. I just want to remind you how important it is for you to create right now. And the more we can transmute our emotions, especially maybe negative ones, maybe we're feeling sad or scared or anxious or disappointed, the more that we can create to make ourselves feel better and to understand ourselves and the world more, to zero in on things that we find beautiful and valuable, the better a world it is for everyone. Not that you asked for my advice, but the biggest advice that I have is just keep going. Find a way to keep going and keep creating, even if it's literally just writing down a note for something that you want to paint and you don't get to that note for another month. Also, this is a test copy. I have my first book coming out in December. I'm so excited. It's called My World Belongs to Me. It has a playlist. Oh yeah. I've got this hardcover version. Oh, yeah. I'm so happy with how it turned out, and this was 6 years in the making. If you'd like to pre-order my first book, I'm gonna have the link down below. And I also have a print of the month club on my Patreon, where you can sign up to get a new print in the mail every single month, because I just love mail. I'm trying to share my process more and more because I know when I see other people working, it makes me inspired to work. So I would love to be that for others. I will have all of my socials down below. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate you giving it a like. If you want to share what you're working on in the comments, I always love to read that. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure that you are subscribed and the notification bell is turned on. And I appreciate you being here so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in a video soon. Take care.